Welcome to Creating Static Maps for Teaching and Learning with QGreenland. In this video, we'll show you how to select and prepare the data that you want to highlight in your map, how to create the map layout, and how to export that map for sharing as an image. It's not always possible for students to use GIS software in the classroom. This could be for a variety of reasons. For one, there is a learning curve associated with GIS software. You might not have the right equipment available to you in your classroom or school, or maybe you don't want students on technology for yet another lesson. But looking at authentic data is still something you want to do with your students. For one, maps are compelling, and maps are a factor in our everyday lives more than ever. For various reasons, it may be better for you to choose the data in QGreenland that you want and export static maps for your students. Whereas a dynamic map is a map that's interactive and you can move or manipulate the map, a static map is simply just an image that you can insert in another document. Let's talk about the steps to how to create a static map. Our first step is to prepare the map view. To do that, we're going to talk through how to adjust the background and the reference layers for your map, to place the data that you would like to show your students in context, how to choose the data layers to turn on, how to adjust the symbology of those layers, and how to add any labels to the features that you would like to highlight. I'll start by opening the folder where I have my QGreenland data, and I can double click on the QGreenland.qgz file. This will launch QGIS and load in the background imagery. QGreenland should launch looking something like this. This central area where you see Greenland highlighted is what we call the map view. Over here to the left, we have our layers panel. Each data layer has a small checkbox where you can turn that layer on and off. So this Greenland focus boundary is just a box around Greenland. And if it happens that your QGreenland loaded without Greenland centered in your view like this, which sometimes happens, that's okay. Just right click on this layer and then select zoom to layer, and it should center Greenland in your view, and I can turn that off. You'll notice that QGreenland loads with some background layers already turned on. This helps to place the other data in context. You'll notice that this background layer down here in the base maps is turned on. And this is just an image that gives the ocean a blue color and the land a tan to green color surrounding Greenland, and can be a really nice background for your map. However, please be aware that if you want to highlight data on Greenland that already has a blue color chosen for its symbology, that might not show up as clearly against this background blue. And I'll show you how to adjust the symbology in just a moment. For my students, I want to make a map of temperature. My students are aware that warmer temperatures are causing the Greenland ice sheet to melt. So we have a layer with air temperatures. It's in this regional climate models folder. The RACMO output model should be open, and then I can turn on mean annual temperature at 2 meters from 1958 to 2019. And I turn that on. And then right away, I can see that this color ramp, so let me expand this, goes from a dark blue purple color to sort of a greenish yellow color for warmer temperatures. And I know that's not going to work very well for my students. So I can double click on the symbology here, and that'll open up the properties for this layer. It should open up with this symbology tab open, but if it's not there, go ahead and select this one that looks like a symbol of a paintbrush. And then here in the color ramp, I can expand that. And I'm not seeing the color ramp that my students are familiar with. They're really familiar with that red for warm, blue for cold color palette. So I'm going to go to all color ramps and try to find that. I can see right here a red to blue. Now that's in the opposite direction, so I'm going to open that and click invert. And then I can see I go from a blue to a red, and that'll work for my students. Click apply. and OK. And now I can see that the edges of the ice sheet are where we're seeing warmer surface temperatures, and the interior has some colder average temperatures. I've just shown you how to adjust the symbology on a raster layer, which a raster is a continuous data layer. So it's got different pixels and it gives you this range of values across the image. Now let's talk about how to adjust the symbology on a vector layer. Vectors are discrete data layers that either have points, lines, or polygons. I'll demonstrate using a layer in this human activity folder, research sites, and let's choose these PromIce and GCNet automated weather stations. So if I turn this on, you'll see a bunch of dots appeared across Greenland, and I can right click, open the attribute table. You'll see that each of these points is associated with a weather station, and it's got a several letter station name, a station type, a station location, either on the ice sheet, a local glacier, or a non-Greenland site. It's got a latitude and longitude associated with it. So if I go back and look at those sites, I'm not super happy with these dots. So again, I'm going to double click on the symbology in the layers panel. The properties will open. I'm going to switch to symbology, and then I can adjust the color of the dot. I can make it a black point. I can make it smaller, and then click apply. And you'll see that I now have smaller black dots. That looks good. Let me show you how to add labels to those points. So if I click on the labels, right now it has no labels. I'm going to go to the drop down. I'm going to go to single labels. And then I can adjust the font and the size of the font. I want it to be a little bit smaller. I can go to rendering. Scale dependent visibility is checked. And what that means is that the labels won't show up until I am zoomed in to this scale, and then the labels will appear. So if I click apply and OK, you'll see that there's currently no labels on those points. But if I zoom in, then I get the station names that can appear. And I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to open back up the properties. And I'm going to uncheck that so the labels are apparent all the time. Click apply and OK. And then if I zoom back out, I'll see that those labels are now always present. We've finished preparing the map view by adjusting the background, choosing the data layers we want to display, and adjusting the symbology and adding feature labels. Now it's time to create a print layout. And we'll talk about how to add key components to that layout, including the map, a legend, and a title. To open the window for the print layout, we first need to make sure that our project toolbar is toggled on. To make sure, go up into the toolbar region and right-click. You'll see that all the options for the toolbars appear, and you can make sure that the project toolbar is checked. This is this toolbar over here. And if I hover my mouse over this symbol that looks like a yellow ruler on a white piece of paper, that this tool is called the new print layout. I'm going to go ahead and click that. It'll prompt you to enter a name. So I'll call this weather stations and click OK. Then the new print layout window opens, and you'll notice that it's blank. It's because we haven't added anything yet. In the toolbars on the left, you want to find this icon that looks like a piece of paper that has a curled edge, and if you hover over it, you'll see that the name is Add Map. Go ahead and click that. A crosshairs will appear, and if I click and drag, I can add a map to this layout. Once I do that, it will render with the map view from QGIS, and I can rearrange this if I'd like. I want to go find this icon that also looks like a paper with a curled edge, but with blue arrows on it. It's called Move Item Content. And if I click that, and then go over here and move, you'll see that this moves the area shown by the map view. If I wanted to move the map view itself, I would choose this icon, which is Move Select Item, and it's got an arrow with 4 squares. And you'll see that if I use that, I can move the map around the page. Let's add a legend to our map. So we want to find this icon that's got 3 squares that are green, red, and yellow, and it's Add Legend if I hover over it. Click that, and I'm going to add the legend to my map. You'll notice once it populates that it is including every single layer from QGreenland, even though I don't have those turned on. So let's fix that. I'm going to make sure the legend is selected up here in the items box, and then go down to item properties. I'm going to scroll down. So I've got this, this list of objects, and just beneath that, there's an option to say only show items inside linked maps. I'm going to check that on. And then you'll notice my legend updates. It still has a few items that I don't think are that helpful for this map, such as the base map and the boundary and the coastlines. I don't need the legend for those items. So I'll go back up. You want to uncheck auto updates in the legend items area. And then I'm going to find the layers I want to turn off. So this base maps, I'm going to select that and then go down to this red minus symbol and click that, and that'll remove the item. And then I'm also going to remove our reference layers. Okay, now I just have the 2 layers highlighted here in my legend that I'm interested in, but it includes all the subfolders in them. So the way to get rid of that is to go in here and right click and check hidden. And then I'm still not happy with this. So if I double click on that, I can make my legend item a little bit bigger. So I want to increase the width here a little bit. Okay, and then I can update the font by scrolling down, and there's fonts and text formatting, and I can change the font, and I can make it bigger or smaller. And then make it a little bit smaller here. Choose a different font. Then I'll go back up and give in the main properties and give it a title. Okay, and then finally, I want to give my map a descriptive title. So I want to go find the symbol over here that says add label. It has a T in a square in a rectangle. Click on that. And then you'll notice that it populates it with a placeholder text. So if I select that and go to properties again, I can add my text. So I'm going to say locations of automated weather stations in Greenland. Annual mean temperature and locations of automated weather stations in Greenland. And again, if I scroll down, I can adjust the font. And the size of the font until I land on something that I am happy with. Now that I've created a print layout that I'm happy with, there's a map, there's a legend, and a title, it's time to export the map. Now that I've adjusted the map to something that I like and think will work for my students, it's time to export. I want to point out a couple things before we do so. If I go into the QGIS properties and I go to layout, you see that my layouts are always here. I've named this one weather stations. So if I ever were to close this window by mistake, and here I'm back in the main QGIS map view window, I could just go to the project menu to layouts, and here I'll see weather station. If I select that, I get my layout back. Now I'm ready to export. There are two primary ways to export. One is to export using this icon that looks like a tan mountain on a blue background called export as image. And this is going to allow me to export in any image format like a JPEG or a PNG or a TIFF file. This is great for inserting into other documents and rescaling. The other way is to export as a PDF, which is this symbol with that red Adobe symbol. You can find both of these settings in the layout menu. You have export as image or export as PDF.